Hello. So I want to say this real quick. I was just going back and listening to some videos and some people that I'm subscribed to and listening to some of their uploads because I have had to stop listening to a lot of videos for a while and concentrate on other things. And now I'm kind of going back on certain people that I've been subscribed to and listening to their videos. And one video that I listened to that kind of inspired me to say something right now is a video about Taraji P. Henson. And how Taraji P. Henson, I don't know what award show this was or where she was when she said it, but she was telling black women not to carry the title as strong black women anymore and stop being the superheroes and all this stuff and stop seeing yourself as a superhero. But the person that was commenting on what Taraji P. Henson said, well, that sounds good because black women are tired of, so-called black women, I'm going to say it like that, are tired of being the mules, right? Muling for the community. So I guess that would sound right what Taraji P. Henson said. The only problem is she is a celebrity and you got to look at that. Because a lot of things that they do are not for the betterment of so-called black people, whether it's so-called black men or so-called black women or so-called black children. And most of the time when you see these black celebrities that's making these speeches, they are doing what they're told, like the president. Okay, so it's kind of hard to really take her seriously simply because she's a celebrity. I know that she has her own mind, but simply because she's a celebrity, to a certain degree, they have to do, well, to a very large degree, they have to do what they're told. And so, but her message could have sounded like, it could have sounded good, and it could have sounded like, okay, yeah, finally somebody recognized that we're muling for the community, and they just telling us to stop muling. Well, that could sound like what she said, because that's what we've been hearing on YouTube about other women, so-called black women YouTubers that hardly get any recognition. And so you get these celebrities come out and say something similar, but actually they're doing something different. And so this person that titled her video about Taraji P. Henson and the strong black women, she made it a couple of months ago, and I'm just not catching up with her video. She is saying that now you seeing Latina women talking about Latina power and all that stuff. And so in actuality, when I think about what this person that created this video said about Taraji P. Henson, I was thinking to myself, now this might not be necessarily what that person, that commenter was saying, that YouTuber, but this is what came to mind as she was talking. See, Taraji P. Henson could be telling black women to take a seat with the strong black women stuff so the Latina woman can rise. This is not about her relaxing and resting her femininity and getting her nails done and all this stuff like this. Resting with somebody who cares about you and stuff like that. Because if you really want to tell black women to stop being a strong black woman, then you're going to have to tell her to stop having a lot of babies by a certain group of men that probably don't want to stick around to take care of their children. Because that's kind of what created this whole strong black woman thing anyway, is a lot of these single mothers that had to do things by themselves. Okay, the average woman who just went to college and working somewhere, a regular career like any old other woman, that is not where that strong black woman came from. That strong black woman image comes from a lot of single black mothers that had to do a lot by themselves. So I think if you want to really push the message to black women, so-called black women, to stop carrying this title and stop being this strong black woman and stop acting like he's superhuman, then it's probably best to let her know that she needs to stop having babies by men who most likely ain't going to be around. Because that's where that whole thing to me came from. It didn't come from no average woman that just went to college and then got a job or a career and working and paid for a house. It's a lot of women that do that. It's a lot of women to do that, but it's not a lot of women who's a bunch of single baby mothers and have to raise all these kids by themselves like black women. It's not a lot of women like that, though. Okay? So, but I can feel what she's saying. Has she been one of the regular women on YouTube that I used to listen to in 2015, 2016, 2017, when they was really sincere and pushing that message? Okay, because now women nowadays, even on YouTube, I don't know what they up to these days. But around that time, those women were sincere in trying to get their message out to so-called black women. They were very sincere. Okay, and so I thought about that. I was like, wait a minute. So now you got Latina women talking about Latina power. Okay, so basically, it's the Latinas women turn to have that title. She telling black women to sit the hell down. Black women to weaken themselves. Black women to lessen themselves. Okay, so here's the message before I go too far. Because I'm like, 5:27 seconds in. It's time. It's been past time. And I've never been invested in the community. But some people, I know it's hard to let the black community go. But I'm going to tell you something. Being born in the 1970s, which really wasn't that long ago, but seeing how so much has changed just in my little lifetime, leave black people alone. Leave whatever you think is black people, leave them alone right now. Because what I keep seeing and what I keep hearing is, this is just from like listening to reviews. But what I'm seeing is these celebrities are taking commands from people in high places to condition the minds of so-called black people. I'm going to tell you why I keep saying so-called black people. It don't have anything to do with the Hebrew Israelites either. But to condition the minds of so-called black people to dumb down even further than they already are. Because, let me tell you something. I was listening to Bobby Hemmett, just to go back for a second there. Bobby Hemmett was born in 1961. I do bring up his name a lot because, I mean, you know, I didn't listen to him when he was really up and moving and doing a lot of lectures. I just really started. But he was born in 61, and he said that even in the early 2000s, like it was 2002 when he did this lecture, I believe, 2001, 2002, one of them. And he talked about black people have changed so much since even when he was born. He said since 1975, black people have been dumbed down tremendously, since like 1975. He said, why is that? He said, why have black people been dumbed down so badly since 1975? And obviously the conclusion, and I can even tell you that it's cloning, and I can tell you it's cloning based on what I said that I've seen. Okay, because I told you I saw these black people, and I was in the living room too, and there was other so-called black people in the living room just kind of like having fun, partying or whatever they were doing. And some kind of alarm or bell went off, like in that movie called Get Out. You know how that lady was hitting the teacup, and every time she hit the teacup, that guy goes into the sunken place? Well, that's kind of what happens to black people. And this is what I saw in that dream that I had like a couple of years ago, when including me, but I didn't go into the basement. Okay, I kind of like stopped. But it was other black people in the living room just having a good time. The light was on. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but all of them, all at one time, it's almost like they were robots, like robotic. Just all at one time, just stopped what they were doing. They turned around and was going downstairs, leaving this living room that they were in inside this house, and going downstairs all at one time. Like it was like something that was connected to them, something was in them. That anytime this little bell or alarm goes off that you can't hear it. But anytime it goes off, it's like some kind of trigger that make them go downstairs. And that the downstairs to me means they went down to the sunken place, okay? And so I already can tell you that black people are cloned for that very reason. But you know, he was saying that, and I'm gonna get back to this, to what I was saying earlier. But you know, he was saying that, and I said this too. So I didn't think about this coming from him, but he said it too. I said it. Why is it that immediately after slavery, because people put the problems with a lot of black people like to keep putting it on slavery. Why is it immediately after slavery, after all of that trauma? You know, initially when you're dealing with trauma, something happened to you, it takes a while to get over the trauma. You don't get over the next day. Why is it that when black people were initially released from what you would call the physical shackles of slavery, they were very entrepreneurial. They were builders. They were problem solvers. They had businesses. They had movies. They had hospitals. They had banks. They had everything that you will see in a lot of these, that you will probably see in Beverly Hills. Okay? Maybe not everything, because the black people still have their own taste, right? Okay, people still have their own taste, so I don't expect them to have everything Caucasians have, because they're their own people. So I don't, but you know what I mean. They had their own. They had their own cities. They had everything that they would need, restaurants, clubs, whatever. Just like you see in these Asian communities in the United States of America, just like you see in these Latin communities in the United States of America, right? They all have their own taste. It's not about being just like the European. You even see a little Ethiopia in the United States of America, okay? But it's almost like black people have been severely dumbed down since the doggone 1920s and 1940s and 1950s. And to me, he say after 1975, but I'm going to say after 1968. After 1968, I believe black people were gone. That was the start of they just were gone. Okay. And now I'm seeing probably what happened there. But yeah, integration could have, because it could have allotted for attachments to be attached to a lot of so-called black people. As long as they stuck to themselves, they didn't have all these foreign attachments. I think when integration came, then a lot of foreign attachments came with that. Okay. So anyway, but I'm not going to get on that and get in the past and like, ooh, I ain't going to live in the past like that. But, so yeah, so now fast forward to today, black people, so-called black people, are more dumbed down than ever before. Almost like it's clearly something is not right with them. And I mean, you can conclude, and based on what I see, I know for a fact that most black people are cloned. Now in this early 2000s, when I was listening to this lecture by Bobby Hemmett, he said only a remnant of black people were left. So only a remnant is still left. I want to say left less than a doggone remnant of black people. And I don't want to call them black, but you know what I mean. The brown people, the indigenous people, okay? Only a remnant of the indigenous people that were originally here in America, okay? There's only them that's left. So actually, a lot of them prophecies that a lot of people feel like it's in the Bible, they have been come to pass. It's only a remnant left. And see, what people think with their matrix mind is that a remnant means that they're going to witness some kind of physical death. But what they don't understand is what they didn't know back then is that we're in a holographic world, or, I call it virtual reality. Other people might call it holographic world. I call it a virtual reality. With that means that what I'm saying is that a lot of so-called black people are already dead. They already died. But see, people are waiting to see a physical death, and that's not necessarily true in what you would call a virtual reality, because now what we're looking at is a bunch of automatons that's controlled by a computer. So there's only a remnant left that has some connection to who they really are. So that's what that is. Okay, and the rest of a lot of black people that you see, the reason they can't seem to get it together is because black people have been cloned. Since 1975, they probably still really started cloning a lot of black people. Black people started going downhill from there. Because in 2022, especially around this time, black people should have been rose up and done better. Slavery is not the reason why black people are acting the way they're acting. They're acting the way they're acting because they've been dead a long time. They've been dead for over 40 years. They've been dead for almost 50 years. They've been dead. This is why, and these new children that keep coming in are just turning into, they don't even have a chance. They don't have a chance. These new children that come in, you have a few of them that might have a chance, but most of them don't have a chance. Being raised by a lot of the black people that we see around today in America, the children that's being born don't really have a prayer. I'm sorry. Okay? Unless some miracle happens and they break free from that mentality. Okay? So anyway, getting back to this thing that's fast forwarding to what I was saying earlier with this Taraji P. Henson and telling black women to, stop seeing herself as a superhuman and as a strong black woman. Well, I'm sorry about this, but I'm gonna say this though. A lot of stuff that a lot of black women have put up in the United States of America, a lot of women would not have been able to put up with that. So in that case, she was a superhuman, and I always kind of consider black women superhuman because I know who black women are, and this is a fallen state right here. Even her being strong and taking care of the community and all that stuff, this is the fallen state of who she was as a real God. And actually, a God is a fallen name. That's a patriarchal name, a God. The black woman in her highest form was above a God, okay? And so this is a fallen state, and Taraji P. Henson is telling you to even let that go. Now, she can tell, I would respect that advice more if she would say, stop mewling for the community. Stop doing so much for people who don't appreciate you. I would respect that advice more. But see, no, Taraji P. Henson, I know her to be a black male identified. That I know that she is very much black male identified. And I'm not about to get into no black woman stuff. That ain't what I'm doing. That is low vibrational. I will not get into that kind of conversation. But what I'm saying is that Taraji P. Henson is known to be black male identified. So if she really wanted to help black women and tell black women, if she actually meant for the well-being of black women by telling them to stop seeing themselves as superheroes and stop seeing themselves as a strong black woman, it seems like she would have said to stop doing so much for people who don't appreciate you. Okay? You don't have to do it all by yourself or something like that. But the way that came out and the way this person described it, this YouTuber, is almost like I'm going to tell you what I gathered. Taraji is telling black women to let Latino women have that spotlight. And so now I'm getting to the point of where I said to disassociate. I know it's hard, but this is just my advice, okay? Disassociate yourself from black people right now because they are not, it's only a remnant left. Most of the black people that you see moving around, they're automatons. They're automatons. Most people are automatons. Let me make that clear. Most people are automatons, but I'm not really, I rarely even get on other people and whatever they're doing anyway, okay? Black people, most of them, I'm going to say a good 90 to 95% of black people in the United States of America are automatons, meaning that they only operate by ego alone. So that means that they are controlled by a computer system, okay? They're controlled by a computer system, okay? And you don't need to just like, oh, my people, my people. Okay, well, now you're only calling them your people based on skin complexion alone or whatever you think their title is because they call themselves black. Okay? So, like, no, don't stick to this group no more because most of them are already gone. Most of them, the cloning has really been taking place since the 70s. I agree with Bobby on that one because I saw something in another dimension that I would get to next time. I saw what looked like real black Americans in a whole other dimension. And I get into that. They're in another dimension. I seen them. And they're like in the 80s. They had Jerry curls. But they look like the black Americans the dark skinned black Americans that I was used to seeing in the 80s. That's what they look like. I don't see any, I'm brown skinned. I don't even see people my complexion in this dimension, but they don't look like Africans. Africans got a different bone structure to me. Their eyes look different. Their cheekbones look different. They all have different noses. I don't know what this African features got flat noses. I've seen plenty of Africans that got different looking noses. But for the most part, the so-called indigenous, what you would call indigenous copper-colored Americans, what are being called black Americans today, got totally different features from Africans. So what I saw in this other dimension were not no Africans. They look like what you would call black Americans, but they were dark-skinned. They still had their complexion that I remember seeing in the 80s, when most black people were dark-skinned. Like, you can just, like, they were just dark skinned. Like, when you would look at these documentaries and all this stuff from the 80s and the 70s, black people just still, a lot of them just still look dark skinned. That's what I saw in this other dimension. So a lot of them were carried to another dimension. And they're in the 80s. And I don't want to go too far because I was going to say something about that. But I don't want to skip all over the place. Anyway, so that's what I was saying about that. Like, you know, just let black people go. Whatever you think is black people, whatever you think you're seeing right now and what you think is black people, let black people go. Don't worry about nobody calling you a sellout and all this stuff and you don't care about your people and you wrong. No, don't hold on to this, because what you're holding on to is some people that don't even exist. Most people are already gone. White, black, Latina, most of them are operated purely by a computer system. Okay, it's not just black people, but I'm talking about black people. Listen, I never really had any attachment to these other groups of people. Now, I was somewhat attached to black people as a young lady because, of course, I'm a brown woman myself. So I was somewhat attached to what looked like me, right? But I'm not attached any longer. But I'm just uploading this to let some people know that don't hold on to these folks. Don't hold on to whatever you think is so-called black people. They're gone. They're gone. They're not there. And last but not least, I want to get on this term black. Now, I don't know what happened. This term was given to so-called black people. I can't remember if it was in the 70s or was it in the 80s. I think it might have been in the 70s when the so-called brown people, they went from being called colored or Negroes to being called black. And black people, these people agreed to being called black. But this term black was given to them by the government, the CIA, something like that. So you already should know by now the CIA, the government, means you no good. So there's already a curse on that term. To be called black is already a curse. I was listening to Bro Sanchez some time ago. And he started breaking down black, but he didn't go fully into it. But he started talking about the Kabbalah, black, and how it relates to the Kabbalah. So when people say black power, they're actually giving power to the Kabbalah. Kabbalah power. The Cabal. I can't remember what video that was because I can't remember it. And he didn't go into deep detail anyway. And I don't think he ever got back around to talking about it, but I haven't watched his videos lately because they're like 4 hours long. So I had to listen to the whole thing to really know if he actually got back to it. But I remember him saying, talking about when they talking about black, I saw where in his research, he connected with that term black that was given to this group of people to the cabal. And so when these black folks, so-called black people, talk about black power, they probably giving a lot of energy to the cabal. And they're saying cabal power. It's the cabal that's the power. Black is not these actual group of people. Black is a title, but black is not necessarily this group of people you're looking at. Black could mean what you would look at as a European person. They can be called black. Anytime that title black has switched up, now Latina might be the new black now. And a lot of so-called black women get offended by that because they were mistakenly thinking that, and black men too. They were mistakenly thinking that black has something to do with their skin complexion. Black is a title that has nothing to do with your skin complexion. So Pamela Anderson could be a black woman. Kim Kardashian could be a black woman. Any Latina any day could be a black woman. It's a title. It has nothing to do with your skin complexion. But I see a lot of black women want to hold on to that, and they get mad when they see these other groups of women, even mixed women, that call themselves black, but black ain't got nothing to do with no skin complexion. And when I look at that Bro Sanchez breakdown, it's more about the Kabbalah. And I always wonder what because black means nothing. It's absence of color. It means nothing. So why hold on to something that's absent anyway? Why not let somebody else have that? But anyway, that is it. I just felt like saying that. Yeah, just take care of yourself. I've been doing that for me. I've been taking care of myself. Because I got too much work to do on myself to be concerned about what another whole group of people doing anyway. Really, I've been stopped trying to worry about what black women doing. If black women putting up with this bashing, okay, well, if they decide they don't want to deal with it no more, then they will decide they don't want to deal with it. Because I have so much of myself to work on that I don't even have room to really talk to black women when it comes to whatever they're tolerating. I don't have room to give them any advice too much, or to tell them what to do. Let me say it like that, to tell them what to do. Because nobody's life is ever going to really be perfect in this human form. Let me say that. So I don't want to say, oh, my life ain't perfect, so I can't give you advice. Well, whose life is perfect? Psychologists give people advice all the time, and their life ain't perfect. So no, that doesn't mean anything just because your life is not perfect. You can't give advice, because that's dumb. As long as you have a human mindset and a human form, you're never going to be perfect. That's just the way it is. But that doesn't mean you can't give advice. But as far as telling somebody what to do and what they need to put up with, that I stop. No, you don't tell nobody. You can give somebody some suggestions and some advice, but telling them what to do when I'm still working on myself, I ain't got room to do that. And so I left that whole mess alone about this black women, black men stuff and who they need to be. I never got into who black women need to date, because I think black women need to be left alone, to be quite honest with you. My advice is black women, so-called black women, brown women, they really need to get back to their original power. And by doing that, they need to be left the heck alone. Even if they need to leave their brown girlfriends alone, they need to be left alone. Like, when I say left alone, I'm not talking about dating. Leave your family. Get back to your original power, because most of your family, most of your friends and your spouse or whoever, they are stuck in that matrix, and they're holding you back from activating your DNA. They're holding you back from being activated because of their matrix mind. So the best thing for a lot of so-called black, or what I would like to say brown women to do, is they need to be isolated from this matrix and from their family and from what they think of their friends, unless they, you don't want to isolate yourself too much, because you still might need something. So you don't want to, isolate yourself too much. But most of you who want to get activated and get back into your true power like you used to be, like some of you have a feeling that you used to be somebody really powerful, but you can't seem to get back into it because you're dealing with too many matrix-minded people. So when I say black women, I think they should be left alone. I've never been one to preach about dating, whether it was a white man, an Asian man. I've never been one to tell black women about no dating. Because I'm the kind of woman who I know who so-called black women, who brown women, I know who they were. And the best thing for them to do to get back to that person, and get back to that being that they were, because they didn't even look like a human. They look like X-Men. And for them to get back to that kind of power, they need to be left alone. Not just from a man, but be left alone. They mama need to leave them alone. Their daddy need to leave them alone. They need to be left alone. Okay? But anyway, that is it, and I will talk later. Alrighty.